Honorable, my Lord Justice Gertrude Araba Esaba Torkono. You're welcome to this panel again.
Thank you very much.
We will now administer the oath.
Christian, Bible. I, Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Torkono,
swear by the Almighty God
swear by the Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give before this committee
that the evidence I shall give before this committee
touching the matter in issue
touching all matters in issue, the matter in issue,
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Honourable members, my lords, I'm supposed to make an opening remarks as part of the program. I've already apologized for the late start. Our quorum delayed in making up. Second thing I wish to say is that my Lord Gertrude Torkono is not new before us. In November 2019, she appeared before this committee and we took her through this same procedure. In that instance, she had been nominated as a Supreme Court judge. We are here again today because she has been nominated this time as the Chief Justice. The proceedings will not be different from what you have done in the past, except that probably we will now focus more on administration of justice generally rather than your knowledge in the law, because as for that one, we have tested that previously. But that is not too direct as to how members should ask their question. And I expect that at the close of this today, we would be able to say proudly that we have succeeded in considering you properly. You're all welcome. I hand over now to the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you are right. This is not the first time we are going to have the opportunity to vet Justice Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Torkono. However, our job here today will be focusing on evaluating her judgment or ruling from the time she went to the Supreme Court to today. We've been able to secure most of the rulings and the judgment from that she was able to participate on. So that is largely what we will be doing. Unfortunately, there is one of them that we are not able to get the reasoned ruling on the matter. That has to do with the recent case involving our colleague, the Honorable Kwesi. We are of the view that we should be given opportunity to get a copy of the ruling so that we can be able to ask her questions based on her ruling. We are going to start the vetting, obviously, using the information that we have. But unfortunately, we cannot conclude on the matter until we have the ruling on the latest judgment that she took part. So, Mr. Chairman, I think it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty straightforward. As I said, she's not new to us. She's been around for some time, and we'll start the process of vetting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. Honourable members, we will start. My Lord Justice Torkono, as I said, we know you already, but for the record, kindly tell us a little more about yourself, again.
I started my legal career in the judiciary in 2004 as a High Court judge. I was one of the first judges in the commercial division of the High Court. I moved to the Court of Appeal in 2012 and to the Supreme Court in 2019. I'm a Christian. My father is from Nkomo State, Gomon to be precise. My mother is from Winneba, and so I'm a Futu. I'm married to an Anglo man called Torkono. I have 4 children, 4 daughters, and 3 grandchildren. Thank you.
You appeared before us in November 2019. The name on the letter from the presidency referring you to us did not include any Saki. Now there's a new one. This one includes a Saki. Are we dealing with the same person?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Very much so. I started life as Gertrude Aribe Saba Saki, got married and became Gertrude Aribe Saba Torkono. And when I was elevated to the Supreme Court, I had a conversation with my father and told him that I thought that he had done such a great job that his name should be added. He was very happy. I saw the statutory declaration on June 1st. He died on June 13th last year, and I got it gazetted, and so Saki has been added to my name.
Do you have a copy of the statutory declaration for our record? Very well, the Gazette. Do you have a copy with you?
Unfortunately, the list I was given did not include such an item, but it's so close by, I can give it to you by close of day.
Very well. Let's make sure that I get a copy and add it to the file so we clear the 2 persons. Yes. Very well, colleagues. I'll open the floor now for members to ask questions. Yes, Honorable Medina. I thought you had raised your hand. Oh.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable nominee, congratulations once more.
Thank you very much.
My first question will deal with the leadership of the judiciary. You would realize that on the same day that your predecessor went out of office, there was a major situation with the judicial service. What are you going to do differently to promote, or deal with the situation? And I'm asking this within the context of the fact that the entire administration of justice, from the strike action that we're talking about, we've had issues with law school, we've had issues with examination malpractices, leakage of exam papers, with law school, we have issues with law school admission. All these things point to one thing: lack of leadership. What is going to be your strategic goals to turn around the situation with administration of justice in Ghana?
I believe that because the judiciary is a human institution, there has always been leadership, and the presence of trouble in any part of judicial administration or administration of the justice sector is not indicative of lack of leadership. The judiciary has had very great leaders through its life, and I believe that I'm inheriting a great legacy. Now, the strike that was pronounced recently, to the best of my knowledge, and not just briefing, but personal knowledge, matters are under control. We've had meetings with them. We are one family, And I believe that very soon we will see the court doors open.
Can I, in respect of the strike which you have just been, what is the specific issue on which the judicial service staff have gone on strike?
It's about the review of salaries. There is a structure for the review of salaries on a biannual basis. And that process started. And staff, I think, are of the opinion that it's going too slowly. And this is why they've gone on strike. But the process is very much going on. And yesterday, we were in meetings.
Has the judiciary defaulted on their part of that process?
I would say not at all, because it's not a process that's limited to the judiciary. It's a process that starts with proposals from the judiciary, goes to the Judicial Council, goes to the executive, Ministry of Finance is involved, the Office of the President is involved. So it's a cycle. Then they get back to the judiciary. It's a cycle. And as I said, the process is ongoing. I think their complaint was that it was going too slowly.
Yes, we continue.
Your Ladyship, Mr. Chair, the second question has to do with the politics of the Supreme Court and judicial independence. Politics of the Supreme Court and judicial independence. Your Ladyship, there is no doubt about the fact that there is a popular perception out there that most judges will do the bidding of their appointing authority. Now, what would you do as the head of the judiciary to change this perception? Because it is so important for us to uphold the independence of the judiciary. Now, as your Ladyship would know, justice must not only be seen as being done, but must not just be done, but be seen being done. In other words, the issues of judicial independence should not only be in our statute books. In fact, in the psyche of every Ghanaian, everybody must understand and appreciate judicial independence. What would you do to... Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I believe that, the ordinary Ghanaian would have to understand and appreciate judicial independence. Mr. Chair, what would you do to change this perception? And it is very critical, because if you look at our Afrobarometer surveys, you look at Ghana's fall on the rule of law index, and so on and so forth. So it's so crucial that as a leader of the judicial arm of government, we do something about this. What would you do to ensure that this independence is upheld and is appreciated by every Ghanaian?
I believe your question started with a premise that judges will do the bidding of the appointing authority. Then your question moved into assuring Ghanaians that judges would work independently. Now, it's difficult for me to appreciate what is meant by the appointing authority, because the appointing authority from the for Superior Court judges is the President, and with acting on advice and in consultation with the Judicial Council and the Council of State when it comes to the Supreme Court. I think that if there's such a perception, it is a wrong perception, because the load of our work with respect to the ordinary Ghanaian, hardly has anything to do with appointing authorities. On a daily basis, we are adjudicating tens and hundreds of cases involving the quote-unquote ordinary Joe. Then, as to whether judges give decisions on the basis of independence, independence is always linked with law. And as long as our decisions are premised on law, they must be presumed to have been arrived at independently. What will I do? Consistent engagement. Consistent engagement with the community of Ghana through the media regarding how the adjudication process functions, and consistent engagement with judges themselves and with judicial service staff.
Mr. Chair, my third and final question has to do with what I respectfully consider as the abuse of the power of contempt by the Supreme Court. Mr. Chair, I'm saying this because in any open democracy, the only way we hold people to account is to speak about them. But there has been a trend which is very novel, because when I was coming here, I tried to look at the jurisdiction in the US, I tried to look at Canada, I tried to look at UK to see whether there has been a practice where maybe Supreme Court gives a decision, somebody comments in a disparaging way, and Supreme Court cites the person for contempt. I never saw any. Now, my fear is that in our democracy, the freedom of expression, I agree that there are limits, that people should not take advantage to, go to town insulting people anyhow. However, the practice where Supreme Court will consistently be summoning people before it because of expression of opinion on their judgment, with all due respect, I believe that it is an abuse of the power of contempt. What is your view on this matter? And what would you do to maybe disabuse the mind of the ordinary Ghanaian that think that the Supreme Court is simply refusing criticism when it does that?
Mr. Chair, I just want to find out whether it's hypothetical.
We have close to 400 courts. Within these 400 courts, we have 5 levels of courts: district courts, circuit courts, high courts, court of appeal, and Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is just one out of these 400 courts. And the Supreme Court is the ultimate voice of authority for the entire judicial stream. Now, if the Supreme Court is not alert and alive to its responsibility to ensuring that the justice systems are not denigrated beyond boundaries, those below us are likely to suffer much more than we. And I can say that this is not a recent trend. The issuing of contempt summons has always been a tool that has been used by courts to ensure that the dignity of the court is not scandalized. If you go through the history of our systems, you will find many examples. And so I think that my simple answer would be that the court is one out of 400 courts. The court is the ultimate voice. And whenever the court acts, whether it's the High Court, the Court of Appeal, or the Supreme Court, acts using the tool of contempt, is to ensure that the justice sector is not scandalized beyond boundaries.
Mr. Chair, a quick follow-up.
No, let me just get... You've been a lawyer for over 35 years. Am I right?
Yes.
In this 35-year period, if you recall, how many such contempt relating to a comment on the Supreme Court have you heard of, or can you remember, if any?
I'd like to remember a case from the High Court, not just one case. That's where the High Court is consistent. I'd like to remember the incident of the 2013 election petition, when some political activists even were convicted Some of them were not convicted because they came and purged themselves of contempt. Somebody was convicted. And yes, it goes on all the time. I remember an incident around 2008. And sometimes summons are issued, but the public doesn't hear because the persons run very quickly to purge themselves of contempt.
But in your 35 years with the Supreme Court, you can't count more than 5. Okay.
I would say not, and that is good because that we shouldn't have a lot of such situations.
Well, it's because you use the word consistent. That's what I wanted to be sure. Maybe some had gone, I can count about 3 or 4. The consistency then eluded me.
I'm grateful.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, the follow-up was that don't you consider the practice as a fetter on the right to freedom of expression?
The tool of contempt proceeding, holding for contempt of the court, is an age-old tool. It is one of the tools the court has been given to ensure that the peace and stability of the nation is not jeopardized. And so I would be very careful to have a problem with any of the tools that the courts have been given to administer justice.
Do you think we should have a contempt act?
Sorry, you're done.
Very well.
You're done.
Chairman,
Yeah.
I just want to find out from the nominee. Just a follow-up. Assuming a citizen comments on a particular ruling from the Supreme Court and uses a word like an unsound reasoning, would you consider that an insult or the view of that citizen? If a citizen describes a ruling from a Supreme Court as an unsound reasoning, will you consider that as an insult or an opinion of the citizen?
Very often within the legal rhetoric, we use the expression sound and unsound. And so I would not.
Yes. Honorable Obiama.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Your Ladyship, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I see that for your CV, you've tried to explain better your background. Of course, everybody is trying to claim you. Cape Coast, Winneba, Gomoa, Alon, Wesley Girls, Achimota. Congrats that everybody is proud of you.
I'm grateful.
Of course, women of Ghana. Yesterday, my good friend Ace Nkomo did a fantastic piece. There's a special feature. Has company law sculpted Justice Gertrude Torkono for Ghana? I don't know whether you've seen it.
I have.
You have. Indeed, in his piece,